Good afternoon on what is a bright, cold and sunny day. It is Thursday, the 19th of January. I've got a nice hot cup of tea. And a parcel to continue unboxing. Now, I have already delved into here and I've pulled out a couple of things for Dungeon Core Classics, Frozen Time, and Chaos Rising, a couple of scenario booklets, and then I looked at, see what I've got in here, I'm going to get a hold of it, what it's called is Dungeons of Drakkenheim, which looked like an impressive city campaign, and then the last thing in it, here is Lost Lights campaign world and setting. Okay, so Lost Lights is a new and different campaign setting compatible with both 5th edition Dungeons & Dragons and Pathfinder 2nd edition. It spans two primary continents, one populated by scattered societies recovering from a millennia-long war, between now vanished celestial overlords, the other dominated by a vast techno-theocracy trying to cope with the recent absence of gods previously known for their directed guidance. The creative crew behind SideQuest Press has played tabletop role-playing games for over 40 years, and for a while we've discussed some missing elements in the industry's creative space. Game design companies have attempted to diversify their campaign settings over time, but there's still an element of otherism to the fantastic foreign lands that take their inspiration from places besides Europe. Essentially, these diverse options are often presented, intentionally or not, as anything but central thematic setting for their RPG worlds, almost as an afterthought to affirm the real story spawned from increasingly quotidian classic high fantasy elements. A different and unique inspiration. A shared desire to create a setting influenced by mythologies of our Middle Eastern and Latin American backgrounds led to the writing of Lost Lights. The setting isn't just another retread of real-world cultures masquerading as fictional ones. Our setting is inspired by those backgrounds, but we've taken the opportunity to recreate something we feel is new and different. We hope you do too. Lineages, a deconstruction of what RPGs have called race. Fantasy writing, both narrative and in RPGs, has long been tied up in the word race and what that means in defining characters and their backgrounds. The modern idea of race being the artificial social construction that it is, our main writers of mixed heritages themselves wanted to turn some corners with the idea and reimagine it a bit. A world without guidance, all the gods have gone. At SideQuest Press, we also feel the good campaign setting needs to be in a recent state of flux. If the world is too regimented, there's not enough adventure and strife for heroes to rise up in. If the world is too chaotic, there isn't much of a setting to write at all beyond saying there are monsters and dangers to kill stuff. A good setting balances the two. The name Lost Lights has meaning for each continent. Our high fantasy continent, the world of War of Heavens between the Ahura and Devas, by ushering in the age of gloom, thousands of years of plague and famine. Society has only risen out of such depths as the age of perdition begins, and it is up to the peoples of the land to find their fates together. Of the other continent, things are a bit more recently cast askew. The gods, who had always been hands-on guides to the church and every hegemony citizen, have disappeared from the world entirely. With this happening, the stars and heavenly bodies themselves appear moved and muted in the night sky. There are no longer any guiding lights for anyone on Zoen. They are lost. Okay, that's quite a lot of blurb. So let's have a look inside. It's quite a hefty tome. So, and what's interesting essentially is that this obviously we see come out of essentially drawing the mythologies of Middle Eastern and Latin America. It's come out of a non-European design ethos. And that's beginning to make its way into the hobby because we've seen a few role-playing games and supplements come out of Latin America of late, overcoming the burden of both language, culture, and also distance as well. So this is probably the first full-blown setting, certainly something like that, apart from for Dungeons and Dragons and Pathfinder. So, we open up and press, and then Welcome to Lost Lights, and basically explaining what it is. Quite a wall of text, and I think this is probably going to be fairly text heavy as a book. That's the introduction, page of contents, that's some decent artwork there. sorry, cold fingers, and the pages are bouncing off your fingers. Let's see what's. So we have the map of the 2 continents, not particularly detailed, I would say. From that, we get a feel for them, but not a lot of detail and so on. But we give a greater detail of the setting very quickly. Before we get into explaining, the setting of Main War in detail, again, not a detailed map there. I would have liked a bit more there. So we're going through the background, things like the War of Heavens, and all of the different, I say basically different peoples, I should say, because they don't like the use of the word race there. Okay, and here we actually do have a bit more focus on a particular location. So we've got, without using the word lineage, by the way, so that's basically, so we've got more of the races of the continent, and so I did see a more detailed map here, which is one of the things I was saying I'd like to have seen more on. There we go. Yeah, a bit more detailed there. So it's quite a lot. It's quite text heavy. There's a lot of information in this book, and basically box out text, looking at current conflicts. Again, thankfully, they are focusing upon locations a bit more, and showing off things there. Then again, we're flipping through, showcasing the different lineages, different types of characters you can create, using the top text boxes there for focusing on current conflicts, because essentially they're saying, the war is in flux. That's what they're highlighting there with those boxes. And it's not all colour artwork, but again, that's a nice piece. So, I mean, not much is necessarily standing out about the layout or the look of the book. It's you've got quite a detailed gazetteer here, interspersed with decent artwork. The layout is decent. Nothing too adventurous. That's fine. But I mean, there's not a lot of the world necessarily coming through from this artwork, I don't think. I mean, something like that works a bit better. And that adds a certain degree of colour and image that you wouldn't normally see in a role-playing game. So not all the maps are quite, so that's a bit dark, I think. And then we actually got a city above, so we've got floating cities in there as well. So there are lots of sort of science fantasy. We have a magical pet shop. So you have like a multicoloured cat there. Kobold alchemists. So this does kind of look like the equivalent of like a fantasy heartbreaker, but basically, the fantasy campaign heartbreaker, if you will. We think we can do better, and I mean that kind of comes across from the lengthy blurb on the back. And really, what you've got here is just more and more of this, descriptions of the background, the gazetteer, You're just flipping through because essentially, otherwise you're getting quite a lot of text like that, which isn't necessarily standing out. And I think it's probably something that kind of does work against the book on just the first glance through. It's fairly dense. But I mean, the interesting thing in this book is the fact that it has been written from a different culture's point of view, and that's important, I think, for the hobby to bring in those other voices, and that's important. That's always welcome. And again, we've got the science fantasy elements there with the kind of airships up there over a strange, partially ruined city. Then we have a balloon float. And really quite an interesting take upon almost like a robotic kind of armour there. So we have messengers of the gods, so they are still about, but whether or not there are any gods to take messages back and forth from is the point of the game, I think, or point of part of the setting. And then we have a nice image, just a ruin there of sort of like something fallen into collapse and almost drowned by a swamp with water, and then you also have railways then again, so you have quite a technological item there, and we have a feel of the sort of the West with the high mesas. But again, it's not the Wild West, it's something different. So just flipping through again, and just finding things that I can show you, because again, not always that interesting necessarily to show you. And it's more or less like this throughout the book. So let's just flip forward, because the artwork is good. I mean, it's showing a diverse range of character types and cultures, and it's bright, it's colourful, it's not drawing upon a Western tradition, which is always welcome, always different. And then we go to the far north, I'm presuming, with all that ice. And we've got sort of like beginning where we have the rules. So all this so far has been background. Here are the rules. So we have the lineage and aptitudes for the different species are available as player characters, whether that is for Dungeons and Dragons 5th edition or Pathfinder. And we have different feats, lineage feats, uncommon lineage feats. Essentially, again, here we get to the point where I'm just showing you pages of text rather than anything particularly interesting, but I'm just trying to see what else is in here as we go through here. So lots of lineage features with the different character types. We have different school. We have come to classes like the Alchemist, different schools, Geosophist, presumably using the science of geology to basically work the earth. Different paths, so like for the barbarian, so on, monastic traditions, different new ones for the setting, rogue archetypes like relic hunter, warlock patrons, domains for the cleric, and so on. It's that all that kind of information. We've got so on, just more and more of that. Archetypes, fighters, monk traditions. Then we get on to magic of the regions with so on, and then we've got discussions of the gods that are about and aren't about, and so on. What's lost? What spells, equipment, and of course technology, because we've seen plenty of technology in the setting so far. So yeah, that's everything for Lost Lights campaign setting and world book from Side Quest Games. Anyway, hope you've enjoyed this unboxing of the Nook. If you have, then please do click on the like button down below, and of course if you've got any comments or feedback, I do appreciate you taking the time to post those. And lastly, if you want to be alerted to get more unboxings of the Nook, where you'll see me out here with a box containing a book or game, which I'll unbox and chat about to the best extent of my knowledge, all of course accompanied by a nice hot cup of tea. Then please do hit the subscribe button down below. Thanks again for watching another unboxing of the Nook. I'll be back again soon with another one. Bye for now.